We're going to be putting our attention and awareness on the things that we need to change in our own lives. And you identify that for yourself. And I need to identify what those things are for myself. So when it comes to unplugging from the matrix, unplugging from the hive mind, you don't have an image for it, but you literally visualize like that artwork from, I believe, David Dees, all those humans with headsets instead of heads on top of their body, all linked together to this grid. That's what we want to step away from. And people can be connected to a collective grid of consciousness and consensus reality belief systems without watching TV, but being a part of a hive mind, literally a biological hive mind. And the evidence of this biohive mind and the threat that it poses to itself is more obvious today. Transhumanism is only one of those examples. Wars without end are another. The way in which people have allowed the media to warp their opinions and their version of themselves and their version of others is another very important way. So we need to step back from the collective. What we cannot do is wake the whole world up. We're in some kind of a reality that we continue to hypothesize and speculate about. I do here on this channel. What kind of a reality is this? Many of us ask ourselves this on an ongoing basis, not because we're not receiving any answers. It's that by constantly asking that question, right, to something so vast, something so beyond words, something that can't be explained in a few sentences or a few paragraphs, who we are, what is that us beyond our first, middle, and last name, beyond the tone of our skin, beyond our genetics. It cannot be explained with the simple, mere English words. And so by asking ourselves those questions, who are we really? What are we here for? What are we here to learn? What are we here to overcome? Then asking ourselves, right, those questions, and then pondering silently within throughout the course of our entire lifetime and returning to those questions and seeking the answers to those questions throughout the totality of our life. Because it really takes a lifetime of seeking to even grasp the surface level of what we're really capable of. And sometimes we face certain challenges in this world to remind us of not only our power, but the threat we may pose to the spiritual dark entities of this domain that are invested energetically. They have it all invested with what little power they have to control as many human beings as possible that will give up their will. Okay, so what I represent as a human alive today is that spirit of will used in the most mindful of ways. And that's something that a lot of people need back in their lives. So, certain things that we should be responsible for changing up on a day to day basis. We'll start with something fairly simple that a lot of us can identify with. It's changing what we watch. It's not that internet's to blame or YouTube. YouTube can go all day and suggest all types of radical extremist content, but that shouldn't stop us from being able to use YouTube, for example, as a medium to access a lot of very good information, documentary films, especially when it's a documentary film where there's 20 perspectives shared or 25 perspectives shared, and it's well edited and it's well produced. And so we have access to a lot of information. I can remember going to a friend's house. It was in Portland. It was about 10 years ago, back when I would do meetups with people that would watch my show at that time when it was live on Channel 11. So there might be 20 of us hanging out having pizza at It's a Beautiful Pizza on Southeast Belmont. And then, forget his name at the time, he moved away to Central Oregon. But we went over to his house and he had this long Rolodex of DVDs. and it was awesome. And he gave me a lot of DVDs, and was really proud of his DVD set because he had so much information. I'm trying to think of some of the documentaries. Of course, things like Esoteric Agenda will come up. Other documentary films, but not just conspiratorial, but other films on science or on water, um, or on there was I think a documentary or a video on sound affecting reality. And there's a lot of early videos, early reels of footage that he had on a lot of these discs, just lots of different information going in different angles. And we've gone from that to having to have a disc, right? Or, you know, not all that stuff was uploaded and still not. But so much now is available for free to put up and to download for free. As I say often, we have technology to reach others that our ancestors did not have, meaning we can do good things for other people on the planet in light of all this fake news hysteria and everybody pointing their finger every which way. But there's so much more that we can do with technology, instant communication. I see a society that's been given a lot of instant communication capability and it's been misdirected. I see a lot of dumbed down people with their smartphones, addicted literally to the flat screen TV, a generation that has forgotten how to read or lost a desire. Fortunately, books are still being bought and sold. You know, Kindle does fairly well on Amazon, so reading isn't completely gone from our society, but where are we going really? So we need to all think about those steps that we need to take periodically throughout the day, break things up, break up the concrete structure of things being a certain way. In a previous video, I talked about getting up early. It was that day that I mirrored that lecture from that woman in the UK. And that was a situation of the day before going to sleep at 5 or 6, and then being in a quiet, calm state of mind, and then waking up full of life and energy at midnight. Even though I don't have a lot of lights, but being completely content as things, by the way, get colder, and I'm here in my jacket with my Mr. Buddy heater next to me. I also have a Himalayan salt lamp. And then I also have, some candles that I light in a big bag of candles, tea light candles, scent free. Some viewers of this program don't realize I think about things like that, natural or unnatural. Even going for extended periods of time without animal products, which I haven't done yet, but I think my body is more ready for whatever reason right now, energetically. My body feels more aligned, prepared. I don't know what verbiage to use. Some people have been a little disrespectful in the comment section from time to time over the fact that I eat some meat products, and I think some people shouldn't go overboard with some of their idealism. What I can say is there sure are a lot of humans being removed off the planet violently that didn't do anything to us on 9/11 that I don't hear many of these vegans talking about. So that's also a response to people that are hardcore in the vegan path. The question would always go back to them. Yes, but do you value all human life? Because we certainly have some horrible things taking place in the human world, not just human to animal, but human to human. Just because the evils of some humans shouldn't mean that people should lose compassion for certain humans as well. Unfortunately, that is the situation that we're in right now in this fallen world. So I think when it comes to a conversation about spiritual morality and evolving beyond the confines of this matrix, I think there's a lot more necessary or involved than allegedly becoming a vegan and the ceasing and desisting of eating animal products. I think that is disinformation, that is all that there is. And I think there's probably some other explanations, but certainly compassion for all living creatures would include all human beings. So the lack of compassion and empathy for all living beings alive today is something that haunts the soul inside man. If we want to heal our souls, we need to return to empathy and compassion. I believe everything happens for a reason. And I believe that I've learned certain things in this lifetime and experienced certain judgments and challenges for whatever reason, whether I like it or not, or could see it or not, to develop even greater compassion and empathy for all humans alive today. And I still have yet to really go through a full deprogramming, which would include launching into, I guess, my own studies, which I haven't really done, into the deeper levels of history around the planet, going through the different continents, the different religions that came and went, the positive elements of certain civilizations, the negative, looking also at the similarity in human kingdoms around the world and humans that have a tendency to want to control others through religion, government, or other, as well as the humans, the men and women and the men that go along with those dominant structures over thousands of years, regardless of their ethnicity. Regardless of ethnicity, we can see a similar problem within the collective mind of man and woman and mind, the collective mind. As we look throughout time in various continents, we see similar types of struggles. And we'll see, regardless of ethnicity, we'll see a dominant belief system. And we'll see members of that group in that time space reality, whether it be now, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. What will the future bring? Will we ever change? Perhaps if our souls change, we go to a different place in the matrix. That's why I hypothesize. But throughout the times and throughout the places on the planet and the different expressions of ethnicity, we will see the independent thinker exiled from the dominant society simply because they are different. Their spirit is different. In some cases, it's almost as if we are beyond this world, or that those individuals are beyond their time or before their time, or a little bit of everything, including after their time. And they're here again, recycled. Another slang term for reincarnation. There are also many people that have a different view of what some of the major world religions are actually saying with regards to that. So there's still a lot of debate that people enjoy over alleged meanings of certain things. I think we need to focus on the similarities. I think there is actually something to learn about the similarities in different belief systems. And as someone becomes more in tune and aware and starting to trust their gut instinct and aligning with more truth, I think people need to set out that intention. I think any person that thinks that they have all the answers is a fool. None of us have all the answers. All of us make mistakes. I make mistakes. I'm aligning with, I guess, my greater truth as to the mistakes that I've made within within my own life. Ways in which I've misread certain realities or situations, things of that nature. Places where I put my trust. Whereas 10 years later, 5 years later, I would be enlightened, if you will, on that particular situation. But that enlightenment or that illumination would have never come unless there was a complication. So there's also something to learn from our pain and our complications. There's a blog that I wrote. It's Through the Pain That We Can Find the Way Home. You can find that at alexansary.tv. It was written in 2009. So, yeah, for me, this definitely does feel so many years after that period, in the period in which I started my video series. And I've seen a lot of changes within society and the way that society will respond to my content. And now we're living in the day and age to where we rose, many of us, as social media rose. And now, as we start seeing changes to the algorithm on YouTube and Facebook and other things, we're seeing changes in the amount of people that we're able to reach. So, for those of us that were, I guess, already on the spiritual path, discussing the soul, discussing things happening for a reason, things like synchronicity, all these topics that have been regular topics, in my video series, whether it be the Access TV show or here on YouTube. It's all come for full circle that the people that will find this video series and will stick around, this content is for them. This is not content that is being made to go viral. I don't see YouTube as some sort of casino, although it does kind of function like one along the following the trajectory of the stock market. But I'm going to use it as a tool, as a vehicle, while this technology still does exist. Before, if you will, the potential events of the future. And I'm going to be coming back later in the morning and sharing with you some other things, some other articles, some other perspectives, food for thought. That, of course, sending people down a rabbit hole of fear, but asking larger questions. We'll be looking at the Forbes report on the alleged future map of the world with a lot of areas submerged by water. As we ask ourselves, why is the mainstream media putting this out? Is this predictive programming? Is it a warning? Or is it a sign that that author might be tapped into a truth himself or herself? And that there is still a certain amount of freedom, even in a controlled press, that someone may have the inspiration to be inspired from spirit, if you will, to draw our attention to certain political realities to go, hey, folks, you might want to know. But there sure are a lot of powerful people in power. They're getting ready to bug out for some event in the future. Okay. The question is this information that other people that are unaware, that don't have insider information or aren't even paying attention at all to what's going on? The question is, should people be notified about this? The powers that be are taking their future survival in potentially the near future this seriously? And I believe the answer is yes. But we should be looking for greater answers really as to what is going on. Obviously, those involved in gobbling up power are going to be in a certain frequency or vibrational mindset. They're going to be in low consciousness. They're going to be physically powerful with money, but they're going to be lacking spirit and even soul in some cases. I came up with the phrase in the last few years, those that dig the deepest bunkers are the most concerned about their own karma. And that's something that I've come to learn from dealing with certain people that are way into overtly being survivalists and putting up the front. And there's a various numbers of characteristics that go with a quote unquote zombie patriot. There's some people that may really be patriots and lovers of the Constitution, but we have to sift through zombie patriots and things of that nature to get to real patriots or real Americans, more so now than ever in the ongoing social zombie apocalypse, which seems to have affected every demographic. And as I've noted, as a political independent who's always been a political independent, with the exception, of course, of seeing Ron Paul as a lesser of all the evils in the 2012 election, to the point of going down to the RNC to speak with other Ron Paul supporters and film some of the going ons outside the Paul Fest event. You can find that on this channel. That felt like I was a part of something at that time because it was closest to any type of unity with other Americans over, certain political understandings. Hold the Federal Reserve accountable in the wars, et cetera, yada yada. Things that are not strong memes in our particular day and age. But I would say now, 5 years later, in hindsight, oh, the answers aren't political. Not that I ever thought they were. But we're well beyond rhetoric of saying, when will the world wake up? And a lot of us are more aligned with our own truth, that it's when are we going to wake up to our highest power? So in this early morning podcast, I'll be back with more, contemplate changing what it is that you watch. Realize you don't have to watch things live on the internet What I do with satellite internet is I download things in 144 low quality at keepvid.com. And I watch lectures, and I will put in search terms, and I will even wake up with inspiration or in the middle of the night with an interest in watching a series of lectures or documentary films or short YouTube videos by just Joe or Jane Average in their literal studio apartment in the UK or somewhere else across the sea. A lot of people in the UK are very awake with regards to the Archon interference in human affairs. From what I can see in doing some YouTube searches, also some Australians, there seems to be a network of us human beings that are accessing this technology during this. I would even call it a sacred moment in time. It's literally digital shamanism that people can exercise those abilities, help people unplug from the matrix, help people grow spiritually using technology in a mindful way, and to be on that path as a way of life. And as I go from fall to winter, I'm more on that path now than any other moment in 12 years, focused on the message and refining the message. And for me, that takes some focus and some intention. And to manage a channel and to put various types of content from spiritual to current world updates to commentary on human psychology and to have it together in one place. And I have faith, right, that this is something that will result over time. And the people that need to hear this information will find this information and see how the different types of topics actually complement one another. Currently, at the moment, we're still in a society that sees a big separation in some of these niches. Politics over here, spirituality over here, off grid living over here, commentary on the sun and quote unquote geomagnetic storms over here, discussing the archons over here, human psychology over here. And each one of those channels could do really, really, really well, not digressing into other controversial topics. It's not just the YouTube corporation that turns its nose up at controversial topics with its demonetization. So do many human beings look at content the same way. Oh, that's too controversial. It's just a perspective. It's just an opinion. It's not an axe attack. They are mere words expressing an opinion. So, mere words expressing an opinion should never result in someone picking up an axe or a weapon or seeking to harm another over words, especially if the words aren't even spewing hate speech, but are simply spewing, sharing, discussing, releasing, announcing, conveying a spiritual perspective or a perspective on what is a spiritual truth. In particular, though, the real interconnectedness between us all. And there's a lot of people out there that will use the rhetoric of the interconnectedness in the New Age movement to encourage people to let down their guard and see all energies as being like one or something because we're all interconnected. And there's danger in that. There's a lot of people that do that to lead people into particular traps and to trusting particular archangels or entities. So that does come up again and again and again, that there are these traps that most people that seem to claim that they're embarking on the spiritual path, or ironically so, the path of waking up to the global conspiracy. Most of the people that go out and just end up programmed by authoritative voices of reason in their eyes, and we've talked about that in past videos, how people determine whether someone is worthy or not of hearing out their message. So people are making a lot of bad decisions. And people aren't even realizing how some of the people that they're turning to for information or trust in politics are leading them and other members of their tribe very much astray. Very, very much astray. So I want to place some emphasis today on tapping into your own truth, being able to step away from the computer and read something, write something, getting basic exercise. So, getting back to the point of meditating for several minutes, make that your goal today. One of the things that I was focused on because I've been spending more time watching the right videos, working on reading the right things. I'll be getting back into my private journal over the course of fall and winter, and we'll continue creating content on that medium that one day will be part of a larger tapestry. It may take a long time to put all that together. And the art or the activity, the experience of sharing my truth in a written form, in particular handwritten, feels so much different than just speaking free flow at the top of my head without pausing to focus on how I'm writing or how long it'll take or how much energy I'm expending. Sometimes it's really just easier for me to speak it out. But I also see where the future is going, the potential risk that technology face, and the importance of returning to distributing distributing information through written form and not being overly reliant on the video side of things. I also think that it's important for that part of our brain to be utilized. I believe that a viewer on this channel said they never heard yet about that connection that I made, which I heard from others, especially those that give advice to people on certain exercises to increase your brain power, writing your own life story, writing by hand instead of just simply typing into the computer. So when we're just simply typing into the computer, which is fine, I've written a lot of things that people have taken an interest in by going into like a mode of consciousness. And maybe some of us are better at that than ever, doing a massive free flow, fast typing into the computer. For others, and also at certain times in our life where that may be a lot to juggle, free flow writing is a different experience and uses a different part of the brain. There's a different part of the brain, and I can't say specifically, but I would do some information on this that is utilized when we're writing by hand. So think about, again, hold this in your mind's eye, the difference in the experience in the brainwave activity, also what's going on with your hands, writing with a pen on paper, as opposed to the person that just writes all day long looking at the monitor. And by looking at the monitor, and I looked at the monitor, look at the monitor, I've been looking at a monitor for most of my life now, it seems. And in the nearby future, being that so much of what I do is speaking to people online, I'm even looking at the monitor now. It's just important that we understand that there are risks that come with a whole lifetime that may be giving too much of the percentage of the day. The eye may be on the computer more than it should. So by looking at natural light, that's also why Himalayan salt lamps, which I have here next to me, are recommended by health professionals and others, and especially with regards to the negative ions that they bring into the air and a sense of balance, especially when the computers that we have do emanate a certain amount of radiation. But I don't think it's anything compared to, like, say, the modern cell phone or iPhone. So there's a reason why. Of course, I don't have a phone. What you do is up to you. What you do is up to you. I certainly don't recommend cell phones, and cell phones being the primary way of even watching YouTube and interacting on social media. I think having a traditional standalone laptop is a different experience itself that comes with less radiation. But ultimately, when it comes to writing out something super creative, your life story, or maybe even a scientific paper, the idea is to write out and tap into a creativity that you may not have tapped into on the computer, but to then type in that information back into the computer. And yes, I am recommending just in general for you to be writing out what your truth is, to know your truth and how the world, like, let's say you have a belief or understanding that psychic attack doesn't exist and it's all literally Psychology will explain that because there is a science of the brain. Now, ironically so, just so you know, that um, psychic attack and a lot of people that talk about that and the science of it, protecting yourself of it, involves, in many cases, certain visualizations that are actually protecting the brain itself. So, they may go around, right, the topic of mental illness, and they might find the issue in the auric field. There's going to be elements of science that are going to argue on behalf of an energetic field around each human being. And as we go further into the future, there's going to be less debate around that. And we look at the field around the earth, what have we learned? What is admitted by science that the field around the earth does? It protects us from asteroids, it protects us from various forms of radiation, while the sun gives our planet and all the living creatures on it life. I think people have also very much tuned out of the nature of life or the life of nature and the connection that the sun has in all this. And that this is actually more natural of the human species to have an open mind with regards to the science of how the sun impacts our reality than what a lot of people understand today that are alive today with their smartphones and their websites and their technology. A lot of people are missing the big point, if you will, or the most important light of all. And perhaps that's an understanding that's going to come back to human society as our civilization takes some particular road turns. So, preventing the dumbing down within yourself, as I look at preventing the dumbing down within myself, right? Because that's self responsibility. And that's something that people aren't looking at. Like they look at diseases and whatnot as things that could infect them, right? But they don't really think about society's dumbing downness or dumbed down state being infectious like a disease. And they probably ought to. So we need to keep mental clarity, spiritual growth, protecting our spirit, investigating these things, building up our toolkits. If we don't have any tools, we learn how to go out and develop tools. Last but not least, changing up your exercise program. If you, like I, have been feeling the massive changes in energy, so I may go a few days of inactivity and then go a few days of a particular exercise regime where I may be working out the whole body within a single day. And there may be certain periods also in which we're younger and we do certain things for health and wellness. And also, we may have certain programming that the world has given us. And we may not even know how the world has programmed us with regards to self image and image of others and our understanding of what is health and wellness. And we may reach a point in our life where we understand what is right for us, what is healthy for us. You can even say the ultimate workout to where um, we are the ones that we need to turn to, if you will, when it comes to adjusting things this way or that way with regards to diet, spirituality, books, becoming your own leader, just in general, transcending the reality that a lot of people are in, that we need to look to others for the ultimate truth. This is a traditional way in which the modern Homo sapien or human with the current biological state and brain structure still looks to others and institutions. It's interesting. It's like I have this practical joke being played on me, so I don't become a dedicated follower of anyone. I'll find someone, even someone that talks about um, some of the things that I talk about. And I might be like, wow, out of hundreds of people out there that talk about the archons, you are spot on with XYZ. Then there might be that 1% where I'm like, oh my God, you believe that? But wisdom is taking the information that relates to us that we can use to embetter our lives and maybe being a little bit forgiving on that 1% to 5%. But if certain things have challenged my belief system, right? Let's say I really respect everything that a particular speaker has said and done. And then I find something that offends me, as I may have with one individual or another. The question is there any truth to that, or that truth that that person is sharing despite my own bias? I'd say the answer is in some cases it's a possibility. But ultimately, I trust my gut. And I think it's natural for us to resonate with other people on the 80% or 90% level, for us to really resonate on that collective truth, and for there to be a natural margin of natural disagreement. We don't all have the same star system. We don't all have the same perspective. We all weren't born in the same place. We all didn't have the same parents. We all didn't have the same interference with certain forces in this world that may have an agenda to bring us bad luck when we're seeking to better ourselves, and most of all, break free from the soul matrix. Because anyone truly interested in doing that is going to face opposition. And anyone that chooses to step up publicly on the path to purport to want to help others break free from the matrix, to at least encourage people to try on their own to make their life a better life, because it means something. And that's a critical, important part of my message. What we do here has matter. What we do here matters. The matter in this world, all matter matters. All lives matter. All matter matters. And we are interacting with physical matter and etheric matter in this reality. And we are made up of physical and etheric matter. We don't create everything that happens to us in this reality, but we certainly have influence. We certainly have seniority. See, if our mind wasn't powerful, our consciousness, they wouldn't be so dedicated to distract us from our life path with all this propaganda, with all this trauma, which, of course, knocks our spirit out of our body when we're traumatized and put in fear. And the spiritual entities of this plane of reality feed on that energy that is pushed out of the human body, that humans, in some cases, excrete or release their energy body, even during geomagnetic storms. So, yes, we are food for something, a sustenance, when our emotions are very low. That's why we have to work towards maintaining a calm consciousness. And I'm returning to things that I thought about years ago, more so in Portland. And the idea of being calm in the eye of the storm and being like the Buddha. So when we come back in a later video, I'm going to show you a clip from the movie Little Buddha. And there's various stages to his awakening when Maya, the god illusion, brings lust to him, praise to him, even threats to him. The Buddha transcends each experience. And I think a lot of humans that are seeking to evolve right now are seeking their own experiences now on this planet, that they may seem to be challenges that are very threatening to humanity and the world and ourselves, but they're really there if we choose to adjust our eyesight to help us grow.